Hello, thank you very much for joining me once again. The Projection of the Astral Body by Sylvan, Muldoon and Hereward Carrington. I take this opportunity to thank you for joining me and liking and sharing my page. Perhaps subscribing would be nice. So we're continuing with page 127. Subjects of nervous temperament are best suited for psychic experiments. While everyone slightly discoincides during sleep, i.e., moves into the zone of quietude, those of a nervous temperament do so sooner, more easily, and exteriorize further than those of other temperaments. Temperament, after all, has much to do with projection. The neurotic types, not being bound so strongly to the physical body, are the best subjects for projection, although other types are not to be considered immune. Hereward Carrington, who has gone deeply into all phases of the occult, and whom I shall no doubt quote freely throughout this work, says in summing up the experiments of Dr. Charles Lancelin, a French scientist and occultist, the right or suitable temperament must be chosen for the experiment, and, if this be not found, the experiment is liable to fail, or only succeed partially. Temperament must not be confused with the character or mental makeup. Temperament is a psychological state produced by the predominance of an element, organ, or system in the human body. There are four chief types of temperament: nervous, bilious, lymphatic, and sanguine. Of these, the nervous temperament is the best suited for psychic experiments of all kinds. The bilious is the most receptive. The sanguine is liable to hallucinations, both subjective and objective, while the lymphatic is the least suitable of all, from every point of view. Of course, one's temperament is usually a compound of all of these, which are rarely found in their ideal state, but the predominantly nervous temperament is the one best suited for this test, as for all other psychic experiments. Now, there is at all times a certain outflowing of nervous force, or externalization of neurosy, as it is called, in all individuals, but this becomes very pronounced in certain types of individuals known as mediums or psychics. In them, this force, which is thus radiated, can be measured by means of specially constructed instruments known as biometers and stenthometers, etc. Several instruments of this kind have been devised by French experimenters. They show that there is a repulsive force generated from one side of the body, and an attractive force from the other side. In normal human beings, these forces should be equal. When they are not, odd things are likely to happen in their immediate environment. Their relative power may be tested by means of these instruments. Although, as Lancelin has pointed out, there is an inflowing and outflowing of cosmic energy, or force, in all types during the waking hours. The outflow exceeds the inflow, especially in the nervous type. So when sleep intervenes, which is nature's way of charging up the condenser, the astral condenser separates from the physical body. The nervous type, requiring the greatest amount of recharging, moves out of coincidence more easily, sooner, and to a greater distance than any other type. When outside coord activity range, the phantom is free. Once the phantom advances beyond coord activity range, it is free and subject to its own will. There is no longer any liability to the eccentricities of the senses, instability of the body, or other complications which are present before reaching this superior position. These complications do not at all disappear in an instant, but gradually, as the body has been advancing, and when projection eventually reaches a certain point, the cable has diminished to its minimum caliber, resembling a long strand of spider web, and showing no activity whatever. Regardless of the apparent deadness or laxity of the cord, there is necessarily an intrinsic flow of cosmic energy from the astral, or animate, to the physical, the inanimate, but this flow of force but no means compares in quality with what was before this advancement. Prolonged projection. In the type of projection which is distant and prolonged, the physical may take on a cadaverous aspect, the cosmic energy it receives being meagre in amount. There are accounts of people who, while projected, have been thought dead. This is rare, of course, but the physical body may have all the appearances of being dead. When projection is of this type, the temperature of the torpid member may take an unbelievable fall, the condition much resembling hibernation of animals. The projector cannot get lost. You may wonder if this projection is not after all a dangerous practice. You may wonder if the phantom, once free, cannot lose itself, if it might not remain at a distance for too long a period of time and allow the physical body to expire. As a rule, the subconscious controlling power knows exactly what it is doing. It's a far better detector of conditions than the conscious mind. Do you think that one could project himself into the free state, outside coord activity range, and be conscious there, and refuse to come back, and thus allow his physical body to die? Naturally, one who has never projected may seize upon this idea, but he will find when he attempts to stay away too long from the physical body that he cannot retain consciousness. Some authorities believe that a projector can become lost while out of the body. This is not true. Again, these are the same authorities will tell you that the astral body can project to distant and unfamiliar places by an effort of will. This is true, and being true, the projector cannot become lost, for he can return to his physical body by willing to do so. The subconscious mind can intervene in the twinkling of an eye and pull back the phantom instantly from any distant place into coord activity range, whence it is pulled back into the physical. In fact, it is subconscious power that speeds the phantom to a distant place and back again, even though consciousness has never been missed during that infinitesimal moment. One can be walking about outside coord activity range perfectly conscious and suddenly find himself under subconscious control and moving toward the physical to interiorize. So you see it makes no difference whether one does go outside coord activity range and is free. He is still under the operating subconscious will. You may have nursed the opinion that one might become disassociated from his physical counterpart and wander into some strange place in the astral, and, being conscious, not have the insight or sense of direction to find his way back again in his material abode. This is impossible. The subconscious will can shoot one back into the physical almost before the thought of getting back has fully completed itself. You may think that the conscious mind is in itself wonderful. You may fancy that you can think and act with rapidity. But once you have become conscious in the astral body, you will realize at what a snail's pace the conscious mind moves in comparison with the superintelligence which is the subconscious. If you undertake to develop projection of the astral body, you need to have no fear of becoming lost in the astral. My God, this is brilliant. I love this book. Page 131, How the Physical is Recharged During Projection. I have on different occasions observed that while one is in the free state, no matter whether in the immediate environment of the shell or remote from it, he will be shot back within coord activity range at intervals, and at once the physical body will begin to respire in a stronger manner. It is plain that the subconscious has an eye on the condition of the physical body, as well as everything else, and that the condenser of cosmic energy, the phantom, is brought back to charge up the physical through the medium of the cable, which is increased in size as the bodies approach one another, and is carrying over a stronger line of force. In his book, Higher Physical Development, Carrington has said, "This question of the projection of the astral body is a very important one, because, in the first place, it is one of the most interesting of all psychic experiments, and is, in one sense, the object of attainment of all three schools, the yoga, the occult, and psychic. They all endeavour to arrive at very much the same result, by different means, and they retain it in different degrees of self-consciousness. When the yogi has obtained the degree of perfection in which he can project his astral body at will, He can travel to great distances and see and hear distant events, which accounts for the Hindus' extraordinary power of knowing things which are happening at a distance, and also renders possible voluntary internment for long periods of time, burial and so forth, the astral being removed from the physical. The body of sensation being entirely gone, the physical body merely keeps up its vegetative functions, for the time being, sufficiently to allow life, in some sense, to remain in it. But, you see, the physical body is supported on this theory by a continuous life current, which travels to it from the astral body, through this astral cord or connection, connecting it with the astral. And after he is revived and has been restored from the trance state, the yogi claims to remember the experiences which he has passed through during the period of internment, when he was apparently dead to the outer world. In her commendable work, My Experiments While Out of My Body, Cora L.V. Richmond has said, I became aware of being led to where the earthly form was still breathing, being cared for and imbued with breath by a guardian spirit and by devoted friends in human life. From this we learn, and it is true, that friends in the invisible realm can and many times do lend a helping hand to the projected medium, which naturally is a great asset in conquering this phase. There is one inconsistency found in this testimony of Mrs. Richmond, however, which is that her guardian spirit is credited with imbuing the senseless body with breath. We have already learned that the force which regulates breathing is transmitted from the astral body to the physical through the astral cord. To imbue the earthly counterpart with life is the ultimate purpose of the astral cord. Friends in the invisible world can aid. Of this there can be no doubt, but the power of respiration comes through the astral cable. It is probable that Mrs. Richmond, beholding a friend watching over her, assumed that what she has said was true. Astral exteriorization is not dependent upon spirits in any way, yet they, the spirits, can assist. Projection can take place without a mortal or a spirit ever nearing the physical form. The directing power lies within the individual himself. It is evident that Mrs. Richmond took it for granted for the guardian spirit was responsible for the breathing process. It has been shown how, during projection into the free state, the phantom is brought back at intervals to recharge the physical. Further searching into Mrs. Richmond's experiences reveals the fact that she was, after all, aware of this line of force operating between the bodies, for in another place she says, these periods of calling my attention to and visiting the body were brief, just enough to keep the vital spark alive. A student, in attempting this phase, should never forget that the superintelligence which performs the seeming miracle is within himself. He need never suppose that in undertaking his development he is entrusting his life to the conscious intelligence of anyone, either mortal or spirit, although he should be thankful for any aid others may render him. It is the superintelligence within him which handles the situation, and if he even forms the idea that he must depend upon others in the spirit, he will probably never achieve his aim. To accomplish results, therefore, do not go outside yourself, go within yourself. I am a jealous God, says the Bible. The God within you is likewise, and if you do not depend upon his wisdom, but believe it is to be found in spirits, he will not act favourably. Okay, so we're going to finish on page 132, and we will go to the next chapter on page 133, Not Dead but Sleeping. If I get time, I'll do that one today, so we can get to the full chapter 7 on page 138. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you, and have a good day. Thank you.